Alrighty, so welcome to Conversations with McCoy. I am Dr. B. McCoy, a transformation coach, mom, and entrepreneur. And I just want to take the time to discuss a few housekeeping rules before we get into today's content. So, number one, please take the time to follow or connect with at least one other person in this event. Why? Because your network is your net worth, and you all being on this call shows that you have some common interests. Next point. Remember that this is a conversation and not a broadcast. So we will invite our audience members to the stage very briefly after the conversation begins. Please use the raise your hand function. Raising your hand will prompt the moderators to allow you to come up on stage. Once on stage, please remain on mute until it is your time to speak. And right now, just take a moment to observe the bottom right-hand corner of your page here. You will see options to share, react, and raise your hand. So please take a second to please share this room right now. And that is very much appreciated. For the last housekeeping rule, while you guys are doing that, are your bingo moments. These are essentially the aha moments, the moments that cause that light bulb to go off in your head when we mention something very useful to you or your practice or your business or even just your personal endeavors. So feel free to write your bingo moments in the comment section of the event page, even accessible after this event ends. So without further ado, now is the time for me to introduce our guest, Dr. Christina Fontana, the Pharmacist Coach. So, Dr. Fontana, please announce to the audience here who you are and what it is that you do.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me, Brittany. And yes, you could call me Christina. I'm so excited to be here with you today, especially after such an amazing weekend. I know we're going to talk about the Healers in Healthcare conference, but before we do that, I would love to introduce who I am and how I help empower pharmacists and healers in healthcare to really monetize your knowledge, unlock your gifts, and scale profitable healing businesses online. And I am a pharmacist, author, transformation coach, and creator of the Healers in Healthcare movement, which is really designed to help pharmacists turn your gifts to gold so that you can really create that ripple effect of healing in the world. And I love helping empower pharmacists, pharmacy students as well, because they are, after all, the future of pharmacy. And so I think that that's really important to, as pharmacists to turn back around and help, whether it's our alma mater or younger students, to really just foster those relationships, because those are really our leaders, our future leaders. So I'm really excited to be on today to talk with a fellow transformation coach. And yeah, let's dive in.
Awesome. Well, I mean, you just essentially laid out the first question. Why not, right? So, we did meet in person at the Healers in Healthcare conference. Please shed some light on, your mission or your vision behind that and what really led you to doing that. And it was a very transformational experience. I quite enjoyed myself.
Yeah, so this whole movement really came to me last year. I always say that, God is my CEO, and I get all of these intuitive downloads from source, because I've moved through a lot of my own healing. I had eating disorders, early on in my early 20s, anxiety, depression. I had experienced homelessness. I've been through a lot of just kind of very traumatic experiences. And because I've really gone into the depths of my own healing, I'm able to now access more of my intuition, my true inner voice. And really, that's what I help pharmacists and healers in healthcare do, which is essentially working with your regulating your nervous system to reduce levels of burnout, helping to empower you through transformational coaching, helping you release blocks like perfectionism, people pleasing, analysis paralysis, which are really all protective mechanisms of your subconscious, of the nervous system, to really keep you safe. And a lot of times we don't realize that, we're trying to build a business and we're like hustling and working hard and doing all these things, but we're not realizing that we're actually carrying around all of this, unresolved trauma and undigested emotions. We're experiencing a lot of like this internal battle, vicious cycles of, wanting to take steps forward, but then we can't get to that implementation. We have all these ideas, but we just don't know how to actually execute it. And that's really where I come in, and I can dial in with somebody within probably 5 minutes and look into feel into their energy. And that's the simplest way that I can say it. And to be able to really help them release blocks holding them back and also unleash their brilliance, because every single person has soul gifts, life lessons, things that they can bring to the table that are so valuable. I just wrote a post yesterday about the fact that you have treasure inside of you. You have gifts to share that you can monetize. And I love being able to really dial in with individual pharmacists and healers in healthcare to draw that out of you so that you can scale sustainably. And I know we're going to be talking about that as well. But that's really the whole purpose of this healers in healthcare movement. I started off last year with this download, like I said, this download of information from source, from God, that said, I kind of see things visually. And I saw in my mind's eye, there was this group of people that I was meant to write a book with. And so we started off, writing that book last year, which was called Moving Beyond the Counter, all about entrepreneurship and really how pharmacists can start monetizing their knowledge and elevating into new realms of impact so that, you're not having to stay behind the counter, getting burnt out. I'm talking to the perfect person who knows exactly what I mean, right? Dr. Brittany McCoy here,
Absolutely.
entrepreneur. And so we started off with that book, and I realized after the book was published that there was something more. And so again, God dropped in another download for me to do this conference and to bring all of these healers in healthcare together for empowerment, connection, learning, and this this event, and again, I don't get these ideas by myself. This event was, to me, in my opinion, I've been to many other pharmacy conferences, was unlike any other experience, and I wanted people to come into this transformative 3-day portal, which was the conference experience, and to leave liberated, transformed, and so that they could really go out into the world and be the light that then they can shine their brilliance into their communities and empower and heal their clients. So it's really, for me, the crux of this whole thing is about creating that ripple effect in our communities. And I know that all of the people that came are pioneers, and they're really ready to go do that. So that's my short answer of to your question.
I think that was a brilliant answer. And gosh, you said some liberated and transformed. But those two words are very powerful in one sentence.
Yeah.
What I think that what you do is very much amazing and very much needed. And you do, in fact, empower the healers in healthcare. So hats off to you. I certainly commend you and all of your efforts. You are certainly a pioneer and a trailblazer for this community within healthcare and in this space. So definitely big kudos to you.
Thank you.
So yeah, just kind of branching from those words, and you mentioned like gifts, and we all have gifts, but unfortunately, with certain traditional models, we are put in positions where we might be burnt out and cannot really speak to our gifts or to that space of being liberated and transformed, as you use. So please talk to me about maybe some of the foundational principles that you use, because sustainability within scaling a business is not easy to do, and it seems like you really have a blueprint for that. So can you please speak to that?
Yeah, absolutely. So when you were talking just now, the visual that came to my mind's eye was a candle. So I want you to think about this beautiful candle, and it's burning bright, and then slowly but surely it starts to get dimmer and dimmer, and then eventually it just gets snuffed out, right? That's burnout. And that's really what happens to us in the traditional work environment, especially in healthcare with COVID, especially with COVID and everything that's transpired, more demands on pharmacists and healthcare workers and all of that. I mean, people are really burnt out. That's not anything new. And that's why I feel that, especially at this time, pharmacists are equipped to scale coaching businesses, consulting businesses. But what happens is, because we're so used to operating in those the hyper arousal state of like always being, everything is urgent, especially in a retail pharmacy setting, we're constantly bombarded with all of these things, and we feel like we have to hustle and work really hard and do 10 things at once. When somebody goes to have a business, they often repeat the same patterns because, again, that's what we're wired to do that. And so a lot of the work that I do, it's a multidimensional approach to healing and to really helping you reignite that candle flame so that you can be the light for the people in your life, so that you aren't operating from burnout. It requires a multi-dimensional approach. So I look at things like the nervous system and regulating the nervous system because everybody is different. Some people go more towards like the numbing behaviors, or it's called dorsal vagal, so like more of that shutdown state. Some people go more into freeze, where they're in that overthinking, perfectionism, procrastination. I find that pharmacist, that's kind of like the pharmacist section of freeze. It's a blended state of sympathetic and also parasympathetic in the polyvagal theory. So some people go there. Some people they go to that urgency. There's a lot of anxiety. And so the nervous system is really where we start, because your state informs the stories that your brain is telling you. So if you're out of that window of tolerance, out of that safety and security, and you're in that hyper arousal state of like, oh, there's not enough time, or everything seems urgent. Of course, your nervous system is informing your brain. So we work on the nervous system, really helping bring your body back to safety, decreasing levels of burnout, and increasing your energetic efficiency. Because like I said before, what I find with so many people is that you have an idea, or you have so many ideas, but then to actually implement it, what is the gap in between that? Right? It's the resistance. It's all of these protective parts that are like people pleasing, perfectionism. I was talking to somebody actually at the conference. They were like, I literally, can't get my videos right. It takes them 6 hours to do a video because they are perfectionists. So it costs you time. And I'm not saying it from a place of shaming. It's just bringing to your awareness, like, wow, what if I could just have no resistance in the way, and I have an idea and I execute it right away. That is the benefit of this transformation work. So I work with the nervous system, releasing blocks, helping you to essentially work with those protective parts and being aware of like, oh my God, I didn't even realize that was happening. And it helps you be more efficient, so that idea to implementation time is like instant. And that's where you see decreased levels of burnout, increased productivity, increased profitability. And that's how you really grow a profitable and sustainable business. Sorry. So that's really the benefit of doing that inner transformation work. Of course, we work with strategy as well, but I find that a lot of people, they can have the blueprint, they can have the strategy, but again, if there's a lot of that resistance in the way, it's going to be really tough to implement. So I help you essentially accelerate the path, so that something that would take you 5 years or 7 years to do now suddenly takes you 6 months. So that's really what you're going to be doing too with your clients. You're helping them collapse time and accelerate the path.
Such an amazing answer. I'm going to take a second to level set here. So, in just a moment, I will open up the floor for our audience members to come up on stage. But just until that moment, I want you guys to really take the moment to really follow or connect with at least one other person in this call. Why? Because your network is your net worth, and you guys all being on this call shows that you have some common interests. So again, welcome Dr. Andrew, welcome Brad to the conversation here. Umesh Anal was here earlier as well. So thank you guys. So I'll ask one more question, and then what we'll do is open up the floor for you guys to come up and either share a perspective, ask a question, or even just share your bingo moment from today's conversation. So my last question before we open up the floor here is, I'm going to essentially read a list of words or phrases that I feel demonstrate the impact or the possibilities of empowerment of the healer in healthcare. And this may be for the individual, this may be for the clinic, this may be for the business. But really, Christina, let me know what word or words really speak to you the most. So integrity, wellness clinic or facility, community, love, open, heart-centered, professional, independent, impactful, influential, intention, evidence-based, value-based, holistic, adaptability, personalizability, patient advocacy, and motivational. So please let me know what speaks to you the most.
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of those definitely do, and I know that you were you were prompting me before, and I went into a whole other tangent about the nervous system and everything like that. But really, the three pillars that I feel really create a world class business, and it's those are the foundational pillars of sustainably scaling to me are integrity, intention, and love. And integrity in the sense that what you say and who you are on the outside is matching what's on the inside. Your word and what you say is what you follow through with, because that's how you create a sustainable business. If you have, I call them open loops. If you have all of these open loops, but you're not, or like if you're over promising but then not delivering, then you don't have that solid foundation. And we unconsciously are drawn to brands that demonstrate that strong masculine structure of integrity. So that's the first. Then intention and love are very much in, they overlap in a lot of ways, but for me, intention and operating your business with that is really a state of being. It's a state of presence that only comes from truly connecting with your heart and being that loving presence for people. And whether that's you showing up on a Facebook Live, whether it's you having a conversation with a client, it's not about perfection. It's more about a level of excellence. And again, this comes back to you regulating your own nervous system and your own energy, because we know that there are going to be triggers in your business, and we know that things are going to come up. But having that sense of resiliency and really having that strong foundation is going to help you operate with that presence of intention. And then of course, love. There is nothing more healing than being in the presence of someone who exudes love. And I would argue to say that love is one of the most underrated things. Like, you never see that on LinkedIn. You'll never see people talking about the healing power of love. But I believe that when we allow our patients the space and grace to heal, and when we are that loving presence for them, that is what truly allows them to transform. And those three pillars are what creates a world-class business, because there is nothing you can't create on the frequency of love. So that is that's what I believe, and that's how I aspire to run my business and infuse everything, from a conversation all the way up to a conference. That's really what I desire, and I'm devoted to creating for my clients.
I think, again, just amazing words. You really spoke from your heart, and you're certainly appreciated. I mean, even with my coaching, you mentioned open loops. Those are leaks that,
Yep.
unfortunately really impact everything in your life, especially if you don't really get down to the foundational levels and the root levels of some of, these experiences that may not be for your benefit.
Yeah.
Even with, the people pleasing and some of the other things you listed. I certainly understand it and know what you're saying, and it's things that I deal with some of my clients on a day-to-day as well. And a lot of people are afraid to take imperfect action, but it is important to actually take that imperfect action, and you only get better by doing. And a lot of people are afraid to fail, but failing is that ticket to the entry of what it is that you want to do or accomplish. A lot of people don't realize that failing literally is the ladder or the staircase to that end goal. And oftentimes we want to get to the outcome right away. We want to get to the top of the mountain right away.
Right.
We got to get them right now, but it's actually the journey. It's actually the process that you go through that really helps to help you evolve and grow and to just become this person that you're supposed to become. So again, just what you're doing, again, amazing work. I applaud you so much for what it is that you're doing.
Thank
So
you.
at this moment, we will open up the floor for our audience members to come up on stage. Even if you just want to share your perspective, ask a question, or even share your bingo moment, something that really spoke to you today, we would love to have you to come up on stage and just contribute to the conversation. But while we're waiting for you guys to do that now, I did get a question here on the back end that I'll go ahead and
Yeah.
ask. We wait for our audience members to come up on stage here. So one question is, let's see. Let me read this because it's not
Yep.
written in a way that.
Yeah, go ahead.
So they essentially talk about, cutting through the path of the forest of ambiguity and chaos. Oftentimes there's just so much chaos.
Yep.
Despite all the challenges and obstacles that you may face, how can you find your way forward? If I'm asking this question correctly.
Yeah, no, I feel into what they're saying. So I get the picture of like, so there are a bunch of clouds, or like you're sifting through the fog. Like I get pictures in my mind's eye. So that's what I'm picturing. This person's asking, like, there's so much going on. Like, how do I get, what I'm hearing them say is they're really seeking clarity, which is always the first step. And in order to do that, sometimes we need to tune out to tune in. And by that, I mean, whatever's going on in your environment, because I have been there. Like I said, I have moved through homelessness when, I was even out of the chaos, but my internal space was very chaotic still because I was struggling with memories and PTSD and all of that. And just, all of these voices from like my family, and went through a lot of abuse and all of that. So I'm not sure if it's external chaos or internal, but either way, what I would really have you look at is, how can you really move into an internal space where you are just shutting off the news, shutting off, your husband's voice or anybody else's voice, and you are really tuning into that quiet voice that is your intuition, that is going to guide you, because that is what is going to lead to that clarity. Because in the quietness of your own presence, of you and God, you and source, whatever you believe in, I even recommend for this person journaling. I'm feeling like journaling would be really helpful to just like tune into your own voice, because we have so many competing voices. Like I said, between the news and the fear and the economy and all this other stuff, when you tune that out and you tune into what is true, that's how you start to light the flame that I was talking about before. That's how you kind of reignite the flame, or move some of those clouds aside so that the light can shine through, because that's really what that is. It's chaos, confusion, all of that, which is very real. And I want to just acknowledge whatever you're going through. It's very real, and it's a healing journey to move through this. So I hope that was helpful.
Absolutely, absolutely. Dr. Andrew, feel free to come up on stage if you are willing. Until then, I do have another question from one of our audience members. It says here, why do you get up in the morning and come to work, and, whether it's your 9 to 5 or your business?
Why do I?
Why do you get up in the morning?
Because I know that this is not just a business, that I believe it's a mission, and I believe that strongly in the fact that I am merely a vessel and I'm a channel for something much greater. And to me, this is a God is my CEO, and I am being driven by something way greater. I'm being pulled by something way greater than having to get up and go to a 9 to 5 job that I hate. It's something that pulls me forward every day, because when I see pharmacists, like even as an example at the conference, seeing pharmacists get those light bulb moments, I love how you call them bingo moments, that, or seeing a shift in perspective, or seeing someone give a testimonial or say, wow, that really changed my perspective, or wow, you're amazing, you allowed me to see something in a different way. Like, that is worth it to me, because I know that person's going to go impact their community. And again, it's all about the ripple effect. It's about the domino effect of this movement creating a transformation in healthcare. I cannot do this by myself. I hope to, and I'm humbled to, hopefully ignite other healers in healthcare to go and light their community and create a domino effect in their community. So I think for me, it's really that, knowing that it's a bigger mission, being pulled by that vision, expanding the vision, because I know next year is going to, we're going to have even more people at that conference. And, just knowing that maybe I'm not going to see the result right away, but knowing that people are going out there and making that contribution into their communities, that makes it all worth it.
From experience, that conference was super lit. And yeah, like literally double or triple the amount of healthcare professionals in that conference next year. I can almost guarantee it. You are an amazing and phenomenal coach, leader, trusted advisor. I can go down the list of just phenomenal words to describe you. So again, I think you do amazing work. So yeah, I do believe that that was a great answer for that question as well. I will go into the next question then. So, earlier you mentioned journaling. This is sort of a two-part question. Talk to us about your morning routine and how often do you actually journal? And even speak to the other things you do outside of just journaling.
Yeah, that's actually a really great question. So I am more of an intuitively led. I have more intuitively led practices, meaning like I don't get up at 6 every day and meditate. I more so, like last night as an example, I'll write to God a lot, or like journaling. Like I journal to God and just like a note of gratitude, or like I'll meditate. I just kind of follow the guidance depending on the day and what my body needs. So like yesterday I listened to 417 hertz frequencies. The other day my husband and I listened to Tibetan bowls. Like it just depends on kind of the medicine that I need each day, depending on my energy. But I would just say it depends on the person. Like if you're a person that really loves routine and you want to create a routine, I would just say keep it really simple and have. I mean, the Insight timer is great. Even Spotify has a lot of different guided meditations. Or music. So I would just really, again, pay attention to what is your medicine? What feels best for you? Is it journaling? Is it like going outside in nature and doing like a walking meditation? There's really no right or wrong. I feel like the more that you just kind of allow that to be intuitive, you'll know what will work for you. So that's what I would say. I'm trying to think if there's anything else that I do. Um, I definitely, journal, gratitude list. I'm always writing a gratitude list of everything, especially after the conference. I wrote a lot of gratitude lists. I pray a lot for sure. I actually prayed over the whole space before before everybody came in. I'll do that a lot. So I would say, yeah, definitely a lot of those spiritual practices.
That's amazing. And even I'll kind of speak to that question as well. Every morning I really try to do not only gratitude practices, really, just, and, I really like to change it up, not just, talking about, common things or things that people who think is cheesy will think about. I'm thankful for air and breathing. I really get down and a lot deeper. I'm really thankful for, my journey, the opportunities that led me to where I am, the rejections that led to redirection, the fact that the trees help really supply that oxygen and not just the air I breathe. Like, really diving deep and really changing those gratitude practices every single day. Thanking, that you do have angels and a spirit team that even though you may not see it, they do have your back and they're always there with you. And, just things like that. So I do definitely incorporate gratitude practice every day. Another thing that I do is forgiveness practices. So even on behalf of not only myself but others. And sometimes people think that forgiveness automatically means that you did something wrong. Well, that's actually not the case. Sometimes you might not realize that you may have accidentally hurt or offended someone, or maybe your forgiveness practice could be to the younger you who may have been taken for granted or experienced trauma, or maybe you wrong place for the wrong time. Forgiving yourself for not knowing, forgiving yourself for feeling inadequate or unworthy. Those things does matter to the little you, to the teenage you, to the younger adult you. So I do take time for forgiveness practices, not only on behalf of myself but my ancestors as well. So that and obviously like hygiene routines. Yesterday I took a whole day to go hiking.
Oh,
So
wow.
Carolina. I went to Hanging Rock State Park. That was pretty awesome. And I actually meditated in the water under a cascade. That was pretty awesome
Oh
as
my
well. But
God. Wow.
yeah, like I have the pictures and everything is just amazing. But those things you guys can hopefully use and leverage in your morning routine or night routine as you wish. And like Christina said, whatever you really feel resonates with you, definitely use and adjust accordingly. Hello, Rotimi, who's new to the room. You are welcome to come up on stage and either share your perspective, ask a question, or share your bingo moment, something that may have spoken to you since entering the room. And while you're kind of thinking about doing that and gathering your confidence to do so, I do have one more question from someone that was in the audience earlier. For Christina, who do you want to be, and what experiences do you want to create? I like this question a lot.
Oh,
Floor is your.
wow. So I want to be the evolved version of myself that is just like I'm reading this book right now by David Hawkins. I don't know if you are familiar with his work, but I've studied his work for the past 10 years, and he created it was a scale of consciousness. I actually talked about it at the event, and he did like 250,000 calibrations of using applied kinesiology, which is muscle testing, and he could calibrate and see where, like as an example, where I would fall on that scale of consciousness. So it was all the way from shame, guilt, fear at the bottom, all the way up to like Christ consciousness at the top, peace, love, joy, all of that. And so I just aspire to be filled with light. I know that enlightenment is something that's a journey. It's obviously, always a work in progress, but I just aspire to be the most loving version of myself. I think that I don't want to be anyone else. Like I admire a lot of people, but I want to just continue to be on that spiritual path of being filled with love, because I think that's how we really truly transform the world. What they found in his work was that someone who calibrates at the level of 500, which is love, can counterbalance 750,000 people in lower energy levels. Somebody who vibrates at the level of peace, which is 600, can counterbalance 10 million people. So the higher we move up in power on this scale, and by power I mean love, the more loving we become, the more we can actually influence and impact people, because our energy field, it's called the morphogenic field, M fields, we have that like domino effect on people. And that's really, again, I know I keep talking about that throughout this broadcast, this conversation, but to me that's what it's about. Like who do I have to become to make the biggest impact in the world? And that's who I want to become.
I love it. I love it. I love it. If you like it, I love it. I love it all. That's amazing, Christina. And for now, that was the last question from our audience members. Again, if you're in the audience and you want to come up on stage to contribute to the conversation, share your perspective, or even share your bingo moment, the aha moment, the moment that allowed the light bulb to go off in your head that says, wow, I didn't look at it that way, or that's something new that I learned. Now is the time to come up on stage to share that. Um, Christina, is there anything else that you may want to shed light on or speak to before we get ready to wrap up today's conversation here?
Just for anybody listening, I want you to know that you have value, that you have gifts to share. And so much of the time, we go through life, and a lot of us are like kind of going into the next day and the next day. And I want you to just really spend time with yourself and let that sink in, that you have gifts to share, and to follow your intuition wherever that leads you from this conversation. Whether it's you set an intention to get a sign, and there's a book that drops in for you, or you want to connect with me or Brittany or someone else. Just be open to how God is going to lead your path, and follow those steps, because that, I would tell you, everybody looks at these pictures, right? This is 11 years deep. I did not start off here. I started off, like I said, homeless, eating disorders, a lot of clouds in the way, like I talked about the resistance, the clouds. I have been through all of that. And with persistence and by the grace of God, I have been able to create an impact. And like I said, I'm so humbled and honored to be able to guide and impact as many people as possible. So I know that you have it in you. If you're listening, if you're continuing to listen to this conversation, that something is beckoning you to know that you're meant for more. And I encourage you to just follow that, because when you follow that path, you will be led, and you will be led down a path where you create the life of your dreams. So just really, encouraging you, please reach out to me if you ever need guidance or support, or someone just in your corner. I have a Facebook group, Monetize Your Magic, on Facebook. Obviously, I just said that. Or if you go on Instagram at the Pharmacist Coach, feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn. I am literally an open book, and yeah, just so grateful for this opportunity, Brittany.